So in this video, I'm going to give you a quick tip on how you can add big value to some properties without overspending. So as a developer, if you're looking to do properties up, sell them on over the short term like I do, then it's really important to maximize the value of the property that you're actually going to be refurbishing, but without overspending. This is the balance. This is a delicate balance. So sometimes, for example, you go into a property and the kitchen just feels too small. This might be putting people off from buying that property, which is why in some cases you might be able to get a good deal on it, but the kitchen's just too small. It's not workable for a big family home in some cases. Then there is often a quick fix, a cheaper fix than you might think. So traditionally, if the kitchen's too small, people will just do an extension, make the kitchen bigger. That's one way of doing it. And depending on where you're buying the property, what you can purchase it for, that might be a viable way to do it. But extensions take ages and extensions are very costly. So if, like me, you're buying and selling properties over the short term, you're looking to maximize your return investment, keep those costs down as much as possible, then extensions aren't always going to be the right solution. They're not necessarily the most cost-effective way of doing things. So an alternative in some cases, and it doesn't work on all properties, but in some cases, an alternative to adding an extension is simply just relocating the kitchen into another room. So if you're in a kitchen that's very small, it's not workable, it doesn't flow, it's not really going to be fitting in a nice big family home, you can move that kitchen into the dining room in some cases. And where you're moving, what that kitchen was, if you like, where the kitchen was, is you can make a utility room out of that. So quite simply, you're just moving a kitchen into an already existing room. So you're not doing any extension, putting it into the dining room. So you've got a nice open plan kitchen dining room, and you've then got your old kitchen becoming a utility room. That is quite a straightforward way of adding value to a property. Now, it doesn't work in all cases, like I said, but in some cases it does. And it means you've not extended, so you've saved big money on not having to extend, and you've just made the kitchen workable. You've made it a lot more attractive. Now, of course, there has to be a dining room that's big enough. It doesn't always work, but where it does work, you can add significant value whilst keeping those costs right down. So if you're doing that, then be aware there'll be some compliance you need to be aware of. So you'll need to notify building control if you're relocating kitchens, if you're adding bathrooms where they weren't previously. Things like that will involve building control. If you have to take out any load-bearing walls in order to achieve this layout, which you might do in some cases, I've had to in the past on some projects, by relocating the kitchen, I've had to take out load-bearing walls. That's going to all involve building control. So you've got to make sure that you get that sign-off from building control. So the council will inspect the property, make sure they're happy with the works. So when you come to sell it, your buyer and their buyer's solicitor is going to be happy with all the paperwork that you can provide. So make sure you're doing that properly. But those kind of costs for building control and taking out the odd load-bearing wall and relocating a kitchen is a lot cheaper than having to do a new extension. So again, you're adding value in some cases, but without having to do an extension. If you want to see an example of how I've done this before, you check out one of my recent videos, 95k profit flip. In that video, you'll see how I did this exact same thing. I relocated the kitchen into the dining room, didn't have to do an extension. By doing that, I made the former kitchen the utility room, and I was also able to add a downstairs toilet off the utility room as well, which you won't always be able to do, depends on the property, but in that case I did, and that added significant value. So I've added a downstairs toilet, I've moved the kitchen into the dining room. I did have to have a load-bearing, well, it was actually not a load-bearing wall, it was a chimney breast that had to be taken out in order to be able to fit that kitchen in the dining room. So that was a little bit more structural work to do, but again, significantly cheaper than having to do a brand new extension. And because that property was already pushing the ceiling price of what was common in the area, doing an extension wouldn't really have made much sense at all. I wouldn't have got much more value, and therefore the relocation of the kitchen made a lot more sense than doing an extension. Extensions take ages, they're really costly. They can be the right thing to do in some cases, like I said. They might be the only thing to do in some cases to make that kitchen bigger. But where it's not necessary, and you can actually just increase the value by relocating the kitchen, that can save big money and can maximize your profits as you keep those costs down. So hopefully that's useful. Now, Another thing to think about if you are doing refurb projects and you are looking at properties to flip by adding value, you can sometimes move a kitchen into the dining room, make it an open plan kitchen. And previously what was the kitchen can in some cases even become a bedroom. So if you're looking at, say, a 1-bed flat and you're relocating the kitchen, where that kitchen was, if that can become a bedroom, you've just turned that property into a 2-bed flat and you've got a nice open plan kitchen as well. Now, open plan kitchen, dining room. So that again doesn't always work, but when you're looking at properties, you're looking at floor plans, keep that in mind as well, because that could really be a sneaky strategy, a sneaky way of adding massive value without having to overspend, without keeping those costs down. Relocations of kitchens, utilizing the space that's created from those reconfigurations, that can be a great way of maximizing your profits. So you can find that next buy to sell project and make a very nice profit. So hopefully you've enjoyed this video. If this is useful for you in some way, go ahead, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and thanks for watching.